Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. So let me make sure I am up. While I check my sound, guys, please make sure you check your notification. Apparently people say they never get their notifications. And if you are not subscribed and you dig the content, please subscribe. Alright, my sound looks like it's okay. I check this every time because, you know, don't want to take chances. I've had bad experiences. I'm a scarred human being. Good. So I saw this and I wanted to talk about this because I thought this was awesome. I don't necessarily have a fully prepared thought process on this, and so we can figure the thought process out together, but I know exactly how I feel about it. And so I am going to talk about how I particularly feel about it. There's teachers striking in various parts of the United States. Before I get to that part, do you remember this? And I love this when it happened. I remember this when it happened. I don't think I saw it on the night that it happened, but I saw it after people talking about it. And I backed her up like nobody's business every time somebody has taken a shot at Miss Susan Sarandon. Let's take a look at Miss Sarandon do her thing on Chris Hayes.
You just said on the right side of history, which is interesting to me. I think in certain quarters there's growing concern that the folks that are into Bernie Sanders have come to despise Hillary Clinton or reject Hillary Clinton, and that should she be the nominee, which is as yet undetermined, they will walk away.
That's a legitimate concern because they're very passionate and very principled. And
but isn't that crazy? If,
well,
if you believe in what he believes in?
Yeah, but
I'm about to say something that has nothing to do with this video, but I love that clip. I love that clip. Because it's... Look, perspectives are relative to one another. They're relative. They're not these fixed things. We're fucking in reality where everything is somewhat relative to something else. There's no good and bad. There's no up and down. There's no... those things are relative. If I'm standing on the ground, that's up. If I'm in space, not so much. Like, in this case... one perspective looking at another perspective. Now, the only thing in these different perspectives that you have is this kind of objective reality and how the perspective aligns with the subjective reality. Chris Hayes is earnestly, I think he's being earnest. Look at this face. I think this face is Chris Hayes' earnest face. That's what an earnest face of Chris Hayes looks like. And he's, are you serious? Is that wise? I mean, they're not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. I make $30,000 an episode. The world to me is great. I don't understand. Why wouldn't they do it? Why wouldn't they do it? And he's like leaning into the... Why? That's crazy. You don't think that's crazy? I need you to say that that's crazy. And I'm going to give you your answer, but I think he's being earnest. I don't think Chris Hayes is lying. I think this is the world that Chris Hayes inhabits. This is the bubble that Chris Hayes is in. The army is, you know, when he's in his suit and he's bumping shoulders with the people and he's around, the world is fucking lovely. The world is great. This is our world. We're in this liberal circle. I love darkies. I love darkies. I'm awesome. I think that's awesome. And I love these little tepid things that these guys do. That's awesome. Hillary Clinton's fucking awesome to me. She has her blemishes, you know, being a warmonger and all, being a corporatist hack. But all in all, she's a decent person. I met her. She's nice. Like, this is their bubble. This is their circle. We might be the bitter enders. These people are the oblivioites. They're oblivious. He's looking at her shocked at this. It seems that some of you guys hate Hillary Clinton. Yes, a lot of people hate her guts. What are you missing? What are you missing? Shit, man. I'm sorry. Let's let her finish because this has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. Listen to her answer. Her answer. She answers like a boss. Let's keep going.
she doesn't. She's accepted money from all those people. She doesn't even want to fight for a $15 minimum wage. So these are people that have not been, that have not come out before. So why would we think they're going to come out now for her? You know, that's...
You really think that?
I think there's a good possibility. I talk to people who either want to write. I talk to Republicans who have written him in already. You know, and they just feel like she's not authentic, that she's a liar, that they don't trust her. So what difference does it make? You know, if you're a small farmer and you're fracking on your property in Idaho, they just passed a bill where they can frack on private land.
Yeah.
And you know that she's taken money from fracking. Why would you think that she's going to have your back?
Well, because they make the argument that there are all kinds of politicians. Barack Obama is the one that Hillary Clinton cites all the time, who have done things to effectively rein in industries or reform industries that they've taken money from.
I'd like to see that. No, I don't buy it at all, because she's been selling fracking all over the world. There's her talking about Monsanto and how clean, not talking about Roundup or what they put in it or what it's done to our economy. And they know that jobs are going out. You know, Bernie doesn't voted against NAFTA. You know, TPP or what, you know, all these things coming up that they know affect their jobs, and she's not on the right side of that. She hasn't voted right. So what would make you think that once she gets in, she's going to suddenly go against the people that have given her millions and millions of dollars? I think that's being incredibly naive and egotistical to think suddenly she's going to see the right, you know.
Right, but isn't the question always in an election about choices, right? I mean, I think a lot of people think to themselves, well, if it's Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, and I think Bernie Sanders probably would think this.
I think Bernie would probably encourage people because he doesn't have any ego in this thing. But I think a lot of people are sorry. I just can't bring myself to do that.
How about you personally?
I don't know. I'm going to see what happens.
Really?
Really.
I cannot believe that as you're watching the run.
Well, you know, some people feel Donald Trump will bring the revolution immediately. If he gets in, then things will really, you know.
Oh, you're saying the Leninist model of fighting the contradictions?
Yeah. Some people feel that.
Don't you think that's dangerous?
I think that what's going on now, if you think that it's pragmatic to shore up the status quo right now, then you're not in touch with the status quo. The status quo is not working, and I think it's dangerous to think that we can continue the way we are with a militarized police force, with privatized, with the death penalty, with a low minimum wage, with threats to women's rights, and think that you can't do something huge to turn that around, because the country is not in good shape. If you're in the middle class, it's disappearing. And you look, if you want to go see Michael Moore's documentary, you'll see, it's pretty funny the way they describe it, but you'll see that healthcare, you know, and education in all these other countries, we've been told for so long that it's impossible. It's like we've been in this bad relationship, and now we have to break up with the guy because we realize we're worth it. We should have these things. We have to stop prioritizing war. And I don't like the fact that she talks about Henry Kissinger as being her, you know, go-to guy for and the stuff that's happened in Libya and other things I don't think is good.
Fact is, Chris Hayes has no answer for that. And she's right. If you believe that the status quo is okay, then you're not in touch with the status quo. God damn, I love that answer. I love that answer. I may be slightly off the way she said it, but god damn it, I love that answer. And making this point, like, yeah, the incremental shit that the president did to try to show that he reigned in industry is overwhelmed by this corporatist model and perspective that they take on the world. Not to mention what's taking place from the environmental standpoint, what's taking place from the perspective of war. These are big deals, and you completely overlook these things for maybe one or two things, these tepid things that take place. Notice she said healthcare and education, those things are done by other countries. We're the richest country on the planet. Those things are done by other countries. She's making that point like we've been lied to all of these years. The party that's supposed to be on the left, the Democratic Party that's supposed to represent those things, have never done those things. Even when they had power to do those things, they never did those things. That's strange, seeing as other countries were able to do those things. They've lied to you. The tepidness that they've called actual change, the minor tweaks that they've done were just there in order to stem larger reforms that other countries were making. They've lied to you. Now you got to break up with the guy. Labor unions is who I'm talking about today. Her point of, look, maybe Donald Trump would bring on the revolution. And she said so in this kind of exasperated way because Chris Hayes is pressing her and shocked by her answer of saying, no, I'm not voting for that woman. No, get over it. No, we're not in the same party. And clearly we believe in very different things. You may be a shade closer to me than what a Republican is, but ultimately we believe in different things. So in the same way that it would be odd for you to vote for a Republican, it is odd for me to vote for her. No, that's what I'm saying. Enough. That's where I'm at. I love her answer. Maybe it would bring on the revolution, the Leninist model of, you know, it stir the contradictions. Revolution may be a little bit strong, but what I would say is, it will definitely create a certain amount of societal strife if you have certain people in office that is just trying to destroy and hurt a lot of people. And fact is, Donald Trump in that office, if you're looking for a monster to be in that office to do so, you have at the very least the right caricature of a person who's in the office to do so. And he has been doing some heinous things in that office. But let's be honest, the things he's been doing in that office have only been an extension of the previous presidents. One of the other catches, however, of Donald Trump being in that office is also Republicans winning throughout the United States. Republicans are gross. Whatever you think of conservatives in Britain, Republicans are grosser. They don't even look at the conservatives in Britain as being real conservatives. Think about that shit. They think about that. They look at you guys as being pussies. Like, they don't want Social Security. They don't want any kind of medical assistance. The tepidness corporate system of Obamacare, they're trying to rip that to shreds. I'm trying to give you this idea of what the conservatives are here versus what they are there. These guys are monsters. And these guys have been elected all throughout the United States, 66 out of 99 state legislatures. Part in the failing of the Democratic Party has been to allow these monsters to be so weak and so feckless and so not an option that these guys have taken power all throughout the United States. And they've been enacting their brand of conservatism all throughout the United States, meaning attacking labor, attacking workers, giving more money to the rich, giving more money to the wealthy, and also, just by virtue of doing that, increasing the amount of money that human beings have to pay for their lives. Meaning, in addition to your wage, you're also having to pay more for healthcare. You're also having to pay more for education. You're also having to pay more for your taxes, meaning for your things like your parks or to upkeep your parks and everything else. Somebody pays for this stuff. These guys allow the rich to skate like nobody's business, while at the same time pushing those things on to you as regular workers. Donald Trump may be giving you a tax cut now, but do you understand that within the course of the life of that tax cut, he's going to increase taxes on you. Meaning your taxes are going to go up, while at the same token, he's giving the wealthy $1 trillion that's going to go on your backs that you have to pay off. This is Republicans, modus operandi, and that's taking place all throughout the United States. What do people do when those people are under stress? Now, my thought when I heard her statement was, well, Republicans are gross, and Republicans are going to do very gross things to human beings, and those human beings are going to push back on the gross things. Understand, this idea of revolution, this idea of people pushing back and getting pissed off, it's just the difference between, how can you say it? The difference between grievances and benefits versus the amount of energy it would take to change that difference, if that makes sense. It's like, you have this kind of grievance and benefits thing that kind of go hand in hand with one another. And at the point where it's like, we are pissed off, we are angry, we're getting the shit in of the stick. And yes, it will be a pain in the ass. Yes, we will have to expend a lot of resources and energy, but god damn it, it needs to change. When that quotient lessens to where that becomes the option, that becomes the thing to do, people rise up. People rise up. People get pissed off. You fucked us over. It's time for change. And the fact is, when people get pissed off and they get into those mindsets of it's time to change, you have something of a whirlwind on your hands, because it doesn't necessarily expire just at that point. And in the same thing with West Virginia, the beautiful thing I thought about West Virginia was it always starts somewhere. Somebody has to take the first hit. It doesn't matter what it is. Somebody has to take the lift in order to get the system rolling, or the ball rolling, and to even get across to people that the capacity is possible. The first person proves that it's possible. The first time that happens, it's possible. I just to add a UFO reference, because I know it's somewhat of a weird reference. The moment that people see a UFO here, and the moment that somebody comes out and there's actual confirmation that that is real, something else got here in its own steam, then the bar that scientists are putting in their heads of saying nothing can go past it in the speed of light, that goes away. Something is here. Clearly it did. How does it happen? It changes their mindset. How they think about the process is different. Their worldview, their paradigm, what's possible and what's not becomes somewhat of a fundamental difference in those things. Oh my God, it's possible. How is this possible? How do we do it? The Union has become complacent, working with the Democratic Party. Call it what it is. And becoming complacent with this idea of getting some kind of political gamesmanship They've become complacent. And the problem with complacency is that you've gotten nothing out of that arrangement. They've taken you for granted for the past 30, 40 years. And because they've taken you for granted for the past 30, 40 years, you've gotten weakened. When Republicans get into office and they attack you and they bite you and they claw at you, you don't have the secondary process of Democrats getting in office rebuilding you. You have them leaving you with a certain amount of apathy. The teachers in West Virginia have taken it upon themselves and they went out to strike. And they put themselves in a pitched battle with the West Virginia legislature. And you may call it a win, you may call it a draw, you may say they didn't get enough out the deal, but at the very least, at the end of that deal, they at the very least got the 5%. West Virginia took the hit. And now you have other states that are also getting in line with the idea of striking. I would hope that this becomes something that is more, not less, prevalent. And with Susan Sarandon's point of maybe it may bring on the revolution, it starts with stuff like this. You have these small groups that are pitching a fit because they understand it all at once. This is not fair. It shouldn't happen this way. And at some point, this collection of energy, this ball of dust that's floating into a particular space, starts to aggregate around itself and aggregate with other people who are similar and like-minded and start to become something more than just a little bit of something. It becomes this kind of engine of sorts, where it creates this kind of fervor and this kind of energy that flows throughout the country. Yes, it could fizzle out, but I would hope it doesn't. You have a Republican in office for the next 3 or 4 years. You have Republicans in office ruling in these states for the next 3 or 4 years. What does the country look like after that? And is it going to be so gross and so over the top where you get more than just these teachers pitching a fit? Take a look at this. This is the West Kentucky, Arizona, Oklahoma. Tired of begging, teacher rebellion shuts down Oklahoma, Kentucky schools. Classes were canceled Monday for hundreds of students across 2 states as striking teachers rallied capitals in Oklahoma and Kentucky to demand improving funding for education. The walkouts come less than a month after teachers in West Virginia ended a 9-day strike that shuttered schools there, and less than a week after thousands of Arizona teachers rallied in a demand for a 20% raise. Larry Cagle, an English teacher in Thompson Edison Preparatory High School in Tulsa, was one of the thousands of teachers gathered at the capital of Oklahoma. We've gotten tired of begging for everything, he said, co-founder of the grassroots advocacy group in Oklahoma Teachers United Teachers Students. And the community have decided enough is enough. Enough is enough. I like that. Arizona teachers threatening to strike if they don't get a pay raise. A group of Arizona educators rallied at the state capitol on Wednesday demanding a 20% pay raise. Republican Governor Doug Ducey says there is a no-go. Noah Carlis, an organization and music teacher, tells NPR's Elisa Chang about their next steps. Now, if I am not mistaken, they got that raise. I have to check that. I'm not going to set it out, right? But I have to check that. One of the states, the Senate, passed the pay raise. Now, no, that's not them getting the raise, but the Senate started going through with it. Looking at West Virginia, saying we don't necessarily want that to take place in our state, so we are going to go ahead and try to push this through. I like that. It does something to my heart center. My heart center flutters a little bit when I see that. Because understand, your world doesn't have to be this way. Like this world, this is one of those things of choice. This is something that we ourselves accept. There is no God above forcing you to be arranged in the way that you're arranged and forcing this weird societal thing where the people in the society thinks it's okay to give 1% massive amounts of the resources and the rest scraps. 95% of the wealth went to the top 1%. You add one pizza and one guy takes 95 slices and the rest of the 99 fight over that 5%. That 1% looks down and says, man, those people are animals. Those people are animals. Do you see something wrong with this process? That is a feature of your system. Even the mindset of the individuals in the system that thinks that that 1% getting that 99% is a feature of the system itself. The problem here is the system. It's the system. Now, and what I mean by system, I mean the way that we are arranged, the premise to which we're arranged, this capitalistic model, this thing of maximizing profit, even the value system that being in this particular hyper system creates. Those things are problematic. These teachers are teaching our kids, literally teaching our kids. We are asking them to bear the burden of healthcare and education in addition to other burdens. You understand that for all intents and purposes, the salaries, what people earn, has not necessarily gone up in real world terms. Now, top 1%, theirs have gone up magnificently. They're going gangbusters. Like I said, 95% of the wealth went to the top 1%. They're doing magnificently well. Your healthcare has gone up. Your education cost has gone up. Your wages hasn't gone up. Your wages hasn't gone up. Everything else around you has gone up in cost. Your wages have not. Not even, 63% of this country would not be able to afford a $500 car note. That is amazing. Richest country on the planet, 63%. 50% or more are living in either poverty or low wage. Look, all I'm saying, they shouldn't have to beg for scraps. They're teaching your kids. Do we have enough to make sure that these people have the resources in their classrooms and for themselves to go about their duties and their affairs? I mean, come on. The West Virginia teachers were only getting a 5% pay raise. That are scraps. They're literally fighting for just scraps. It shouldn't be this way. That's my point. That's my point. It shouldn't be this way. And by the way, they're fighting for you. Like, them out there, they're scrapping in this way. They're fighting for you. It's like your jobs, your wages. Those things go up based on the way the unions have fought for these things through our country, through our society. What I would absolutely love, is for people in unions to find a certain solidarity with these teachers that are striking. I understand that there are different unions. I get it. Totally get it. But so what? Ultimately, what those teachers are fighting for is ultimately the same thing that your union is fighting for. And I have to be honest, I would be very worried of what has taken place within this last election cycle from the standpoint of unions versus their leadership. You had a lot of people in those unions who looked at Trump and said, hell yeah, and they went with Donald Trump over the union pushing in the vote for the Democratic Party. Now, I know the union understands this. The union has to understand this because the union had a vote recently where those people are saying, yes, we may be open to taking on another party or forming a party. You wouldn't have had that vote if it wasn't for those people fleeing the Democratic candidate in droves. If Donald Trump is going to come out with an infrastructure thing and he's going to spend a bunch of money on infrastructure, I very strongly suspect he's going to drop that money into private interests as opposed to whatever. You may be very worried that union labor or labor, elements of labor, go to him. These teachers are out there fighting for things that you should be fighting for. And there should be a solidarity and web among all of these unions fighting with these teachers' unions. They should not be by themselves. It should not be just a teachers' union strike. All of you guys should be supporting the guys, even if you're not necessarily out there striking with them. I think what these guys are doing is amazing. They have full-throated support. And I just wanted to give a heads up and a nod to these people who are out there doing it. So, I love it. My only annoyance with this is they go to Democrats. You're out there striking. You're by yourself. You're by yourself. And you still go to Democrats. It's amazing. It's amazing. All right, guys. I'm not going to keep this one that long because this one was just meant as a nod to yes, good fucking job. And I get a little buzz in my heart. You know, the union teacher thing. I mean, the worker-employer thing in this is somewhat... But I guess this is a governmental thing. Their pay is part of the government. So it's a little different than private enterprise. But still, they have the full throat of support. They're taking care of your goddamn kids. Shouldn't you make sure that the people who are taking care of your kids are well paid? I'll leave it at that. All right, guys. If you enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support the Patreon. Thanks, guys. I have a more full-throated one coming up next, probably within 15 minutes. Just need to cue it back up. Thanks, everyone.